In piping systems, there are a number of pressure considerations that the engineer needs to be aware of and understand how to include them into the analysis. They are all normal stresses and act in the axial, also known as longitudinal, circumferential, also known as hoop, and radial directions. For thick-walled cylinders, the equations are based on the inside and outside radius, and they look like this. Using these equations, we can see that the pressure-stress distribution through the wall for a pipe with these parameters looks like this chart. The hoop stress is maximum at the inside and reduces through the wall. For longitudinal, the stress is constant through the wall and represents the pure end cap pressure effects, and it's equal to half the hoop at the outside radius. And the radial is always compressive and equals the pressure on the inside and outside, and is usually zero. The stresses act all at the same time, and they do tend to influence each other. Let us consider the sustained stress for V31-1 2014. The equation contains two terms. One is the bending due to weight, and the other is the longitudinal pressure, and is similar to the term we saw previously. From the results model options, this longitudinal pressure term can be changed in line depending on the code. Another pressure effect can be added to the sustained stress equation. By default, the include axial P case in sustained is unchecked for this particular code and year, but by checking this, the axial force term is included. Fx includes axial forces due to gravity, and pressure effects are also added to the weight in the MA term. It provides the influence effect of pressure. In order for this additional pressure term to be included, the pressure cases must be analyzed and be available in the result database. Sometimes in AutoPIPE it appears that the pressure load cases P1 to P100, which would be associated with the thermal cases T1 to T100, are not considered in the analysis because they don't appear in the list of load cases in the analysis set. But this is not true. Longitudinal and hoop effects are always included. The pressure cases are required for this additional axial effect and are also required if the pressure extension is to be included with the thermal stress. Checking the pressure extension will add the pressure cases to the load case list. This will force AutoPIPE to analyze the P1 to P100 cases and account for the extension of the pipe due to pressure. Another pressure effect is pressure stiffening. This considers the stiffening effect of the elbow under internal pressure, and this reduces their flexibility and increases their stress intensity, and this effect can be seen in the elbow report of the input listing. The sustained margin, or liberal stress as other products refer to it, is used to take benefit from any of the unused sustained stress in the thermal stress allowable. The option is available for most piping codes. You can enter Y to always add the sustained load margin to the expansion allowable stress, enter N to never include the sustained load margin to the expansion allowable stress, and enter E to add the sustained load margin to the expansion allowable stress only when the calculated expansion stress exceeds the expansion allowable stress without the sustained load margin added in. When required, or when the thermal stress ratio is greater than 1, then the remaining sustained stress is added to the thermal stress allowable, and the asterisk indicates that this has happened. In this example, the thermal allowable should be 186.4, but because the thermal stress ratio is greater than 1, we see the new thermal allowable with the sustained margin becomes 229.48. If the use minimum sustained margin is selected, then the smallest margin is selected, and this is a conservative option. If you remove the checkbox, this will allow the coincident margin to be applied.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.